Alright, so so we're up to Dalet. So what we've said has been that everything, the systems that Hashem uses to run the world start up in, obviously, with Hashem himself, and it goes down through the Kaichos, and then down through the different levels until they get to the stars. And the stars are the conduit that connects it with this world, and the transformer to get it down to the physical happens through the stars. And as we've explained, the stars are the physical representation of the spiritual core that they have, which are these powers that Hashem put into the world. We talked about Mazel, we talked about the general Mazel, we talked about the specific Mazel, and we talked about how Hashem obviously can override any Mazel, any power in the stars. Hashem can certainly do what he wants, isn't bound by anything, and certainly not by the powers that he himself created and put into place. And we talked about in Mazel Yisrael, the idea that Klal Yisrael has no Mazel, so we said there are two approaches to that. One is that Klal Yisrael has the ability to rise up above the Mazel and be not governed by the Mazel because of that, or things to be changed. Or we said the Vilna Gaon's approach is that Klal Yisrael just has no Mazel whatsoever, and we are just directly connected to Hashem without any kind of intermediaries at all. And we're not going to get into that approach because he doesn't over here, so we're not gonna go there. All right, so now we are up to Dalet. V'amnam, however, mishpatei ha'hashpa'a hazois shel ha'kechavim, the rules of hashpa'a, of this influence that these stars have, gam heim mugbalim, they also have boundaries. They have parameters. They're not limitless. It's based on what Hashem's wisdom decided is most appropriate and necessary for the world. Some of the ways of the stars are known to those who are the stargazers, the astrologers. This is what the astrologers are able to understand. However, not all of the secrets are available to people, and some of them remain secrets. So some things that are in the stars are able to be seen. People who understand the wisdom of stargazing and astrology are able to see certain things in the stars and in the motions and in their cycles and whatever else, but not everything. Al-Kain, therefore, lo yasigu ha'chayzim ba'kechavim. Therefore, those who are staring at the stars will only gain only some of the future, of what the future holds. Not v'lei b'shleimus, but not all of it. The kol shekin, and certainly shekvar yesh bitul l'toldosam. There's also, in addition to the fact that you can't even see all of their secrets and all of the future that's in the stars, even though it's all there, you can't see it all. And even that which you could see, you have to realize, is subject to change. As we just explained, Hashem can override anything. So even that which is seen is not necessarily going to happen the way you see it, because Hashem can always change it, and you're not always seeing the full picture. There's only a certain amount that you're privileged to be able to see, even if you understand the wisdom of the stargazer. As we mentioned earlier, and this is what our sages taught us when they said, "May asher, the Lord kol asher." The pasuk says that the stargazers will tell of the future and things. May asher, from that which will happen. And the Gemara says that the Medrash says that it's not all of what will happen; it is from that which will happen. Meaning, some of the information of the future, these stargazers will be able to share with you, but not all of it. And we find, in fact, that Avraham did look at the stars, right? And when Hashem told him you're going to have a son, Avraham said, what do you mean? I look at the stars and I don't see a son in my future. So Hashem said, Hashem took him out. And he said, look at the sky and count the stars. Can you count them? Meaning to say, Hashem was telling him that you can't know all of the stars. You can't see everything. You only know so much. There's only so much that you can count and you can see and you can understand from what you see in the stars. It's a very limited vision that humankind has. So the reality is that yes, you are going to have a son, and you don't see that because you're only looking at yourself currently. You don't realize that your future is different than now, and I will change your name from Avram to Avraham, and now all of a sudden there's going to be a new set of stars that applies to you. And in that set, there is going to be a son, and not only a son, but numerous, innumerable, I should say, descendants that will be as numerous as the stars in the sand. So there's always this idea that the stars are A, only some of the information, and B, can always change. Hashem can always override. In addition, we find that when it came to Paro told Moshe when he wanted to leave, he said, Ru'u ki ra'a neged panechem, you should see that ra'a, evil, is before you. And the Gemara says that's referring to the certain star called Ra'a, which represents blood. So he says, yeah, you want to go out in the desert? Well, guess what constellation is coming at you from the desert? Blood. And Paro was right, but Moshe didn't care, because Hashem is running it, so he's not worried. And the truth is, that how was that fulfilled? It was fulfilled through the blood of the Korban Pesach and the blood of the Bris Milah. That these are two mitzvahs that the blood was actually the merit through which Klal Yisrael was able to leave, as we say in the Haggadah. Derech Hashem that you are Aaron V'Arya, you were naked and bare, you had nothing, and you were wallowing in your bloods. But I said, you will live through your blood, meaning, Klal Yisrael had no mitzvahs, basically, and Hashem said, you're going to live through the blood, meaning the mitzvahs, the two mitzvahs I'm going to give you. The mitzvah of the Korban Pesach, and you have to spread the blood on the doorpost, and the mitzvah of the Bris Milah, that you have to circumcise all the men. These two bloods are going to be the merit through which you get out. So Paro was looking at this at this blood, as being an ominous sign that Klal Yisrael was going to be in trouble when they leave. And on the contrary, Hashem was saying, no, that sign is exactly what the merit is going to be. It's going to let us out. It's going to get you guys out of Egypt. It's going to be the bloods that you will perform these mitzvahs with. So, again, we should never look at the stars and these kinds of things and assume that we understand it all. Because as much as we understand, it's always only going to be part of the bigger picture. All right? Good? Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, Perek Shmini, chapter 8. Mima sheyibachin oid mashgachas baruch shemayim. From the other things that will also be decided, or I guess found through Hashem's hashgacha, Hashem's running of the world. Hu hayayis yisaid kol sidrei hashgacha udracheha, that Hashem's ways of doing things is Yasher HaMishpat B'Kavadin, through absolute justice and the measure of the law. Everything is done in accordance with what is deserved, with what is just, with what is perfection in the world of judgment. Okay, in Shanamar, as the pasuk says, Shevet Mishar Shevet Malchusecha. Hashem's staff is the staff of Hashem's kingdom is a staff of justice, of law, of righteousness. The cost of another pasuk says, "Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz." The king Hashem, through mishpat, through justice, is how he upholds the world. So the world is clearly run through a system of absolute justice, as we see in these psukim. V'amnam, however, Yodanu, we know, be'emes, that in truth, she'ein chavteh shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu ela lehitiv, that Hashem's desire is only to do good. That's his goal. So, this seems to be contradictory. Because if Hashem wants to just do good, and he just wants us to be successful, and wants us to have goodness, then that's not really going to fit with justice. Because justice says you get what you deserve. So if you're good, you'll get good. If you're not good, you won't. But Hashem, at the same time, we know wants just good. So how is that all going to work out? That seems to be contradictory. Yes, are we appreciating the question here? Yeah. This is a very basic, fundamental question in understanding how Hashem runs the world. So Ramchal explains as follows. The truth is that Hashem loves everything he created, like a father who loves his son. Ella, however, Shemitam ha'ahava atzma, because of the love itself, it is appropriate for a son to chastise, to discipline his son, in order to do good for him in the long run. So there's a concept that if you love someone, you're going to keep them straight. You're going to do what you can to keep them from getting out of line, because you know that ultimately that's what's good for them. So if you have a father who sees that his son is running into the street, the father's going to grab him and stop him. Is the child going to view that as a good thing? Of course not. The child wants to go running and is taken aback by the loving father who's now grabbing his arm and not letting him go. And in the child's mind, that doesn't make sense. This is what I want to do. You want me to do what I want to do, and yet you're stopping me. What's going on? The child doesn't realize that the whole purpose of the father stopping him is for his own benefit. He wants him to live another day. He wants him to have a life ahead of him. And if he's running in the street, that doesn't bode well. So in order for the goodness of the father to be fully implemented into the son, sometimes that's going to require doing things that the son doesn't understand are really for his own benefit, but in truth, they actually are. So it's the same thing with Hashem. Of course, Hashem runs the world through justice. And Hashem wants our benefit. He wants our goodness, and everything that we have should always be good. And sometimes that goodness entails doing things that look like harsh justice, because that's what it takes to get us on track. And it's hard for us because we don't understand it. And you have to think of it like the 1-year-old who's running in the street, who doesn't understand at all why the father is picking him up. It doesn't make any sense. Our minds are much less understanding of Hashem's ways than the 1-year-old is of the way of his father. So we have to though accept that Hashem certainly knows what is for our benefit, and the things that seem to us to be harsh are truly for our benefit.
Does God love everyone equally? I mean,
does God love everyone equally?
Okay. Love all his creation,
that's a good question.
Even bad or evil, he obviously knows everyone to their core and what they're capable of and what their potential is. But are there some people who don't have the potential to be better or be good, or does he truly? I know that we're not supposed to look down on, or when we were leaving the sea, at the parting of the sea, we weren't supposed to celebrate
the death of the Egyptians. Yes.
So I know we're supposed to appreciate everybody and have a good perspective or positive, but does God truly, really love everybody equally?
Okay, so Michelle's asking, does Hashem truly love everyone equally? So there is a Gemara that discusses how is it fair that Hashem loves the Jewish people more than everybody else? and the conversation that ensued, and how Hashem says, well, they go beyond the letter of the law from what I tell them to do, so how could I not love them more? So there seems to be a separation between the Jews and everybody else. But yes, certainly Hashem loves everybody. But there does seem to be a dichotomy as far as the degree to which that applies. But the only difference that I know of is between Jew and non-Jew. Well, those are two tiers. But not beyond that, not within each of those groups. So are there people who are capable of more good than others? Yes, there are. That has nothing to do with how much Hashem loves them, though. That's not related. Okay. So this is, as the pasuk says, Ka'asher yiyasir ishes b'nai, Hashem lekecha miyasreka. The way Hashem, the way a person, a man, will discipline his son, so too Hashem will discipline you. So, Nimtza, so it comes out, Shehamishpat v'hadin atzmai, that the judgment and the justice itself, it comes from the love. That's the source. That's the core. The ein musari shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu makas oyev u'misnakim, and the discipline of Hashem is not discipline that is punitive. It's not the discipline of an enemy or someone who's looking for revenge. Ela musar ha'av ha'reitz b'teretz b'nai. Rather, it is the discipline of a father to his son who wants the goodness for his son, and that's why he's giving the discipline. As we have explained. So I want to just read this to you, what it says here on the bottom. It says, in Das Tvunos, which is another one of Ramchal's works, it says, Ramchal also writes that Hashem relates with love to mankind in the way a father does with his son. Hashem desires, so to speak, to delight in his creatures and to derive pleasure from them. As the pasuk states, may Hashem rejoice in his work. We say that at a bris, one of the verses that we mentioned at a bris. Because of this love, Hashem does not cease from giving them the benefit in the best possible way, just like a father who is always looking after the best possible good for his son. Ramchal concludes there that although this applies to the entire world, Hashem's primary relationship is with the Yidden, like a husband with his wife. As the pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, I am my beloved, and his longing is for me. Okay, so there is a tier there that Klal Yisrael is on that everybody else is not on, but within that we don't see a separation. So this is a very important concept. We have to understand that Hashem's running the world and having all of the different aspects of the judgment, of the things that get done, having those all together really comes down to the love. It comes down to this ability to understand what's best for someone and then do that for them, even though it sometimes comes across as harsh. But the bottom line is that is what's beneficial. Okay. All right, we good? All right. So now, v'ulam, however, mishayresh zeh neladun shnei inyanim. From this source, from this root, from this idea, there are two separate concepts that come out. And they are, ha'echad, the first is, shehamusar atzma yiyeh memutak v'lai kashiv avzar. That even the rebuke, even the discipline that happens is not going to be hard and with a vengeance. It's going to be given with a sweetness. You know, there are always tests. Everybody in the world has challenging times. They have times of things that are harsh. And if you're paying attention, though, you can often find silver linings. You can find good things. You can find benefits. You can find some sort of way that you can see that Hashem is really there with you, holding your hand. You have to look for it. You have to be attuned to it. If you don't, you're not going to find it. But if you're attuned to it, you can find those things, and that's where we see that things aren't as bad as they could be. I know a bunch of years ago we had someone here. His name was Steven, something with an S. Savitsky. Remember him? Steve Savitsky. He was the president of the
Yes,
OU.
he came from
yeah.
Chile. We had a Shabbaton, and he spoke.
Yes, he spoke over
several
there.
times, and he
Yeah.
spoke about finding your aha moment. Finding your
Right,
aha.
he called
right?
it the Kan Sipar.
Yeah.
That's what he called it.
Yes.
And that idea is brought out from this week's parasha, where it says that Yosef was sold and he was sent down to Egypt. And the Torah goes on to tell us what the merchants were selling, which is very odd. And it gives us a whole list of things that they were selling, which doesn't seem to have anything to do, no significance at all, with the story. What on earth? Who cares what they were selling? So Rashi says, quoting the Medrash, that normally the people on that route would sell rough, hard, like minerals, things like tar and naft and things like that were very foul smelling. But this particular group of merchants were selling all these nice smelling spices and perfumes and fragrances and stuff. Why? Why is the Torah telling us that? Because it was showing, Hashem was showing Yosef, I'm doing this. I'm here. This is for your benefit. It's rough, but understand, I'm here. You're not going to be exposed to the harshness of what this particular trip would normally entail. I'm going to spare you from that, and that is a message to someone who's paying attention. So we have to do that. We have to pay attention, and when we do, we will see this idea, this Hamtokas Adin, that Hashem will sweeten the judgment, the justice, the actual what is deserved will be sweetened, because it's not just about making it happen, but it's about making it happen in the best possible way, because this is a father-child relationship. So it's not going to be with vengeance. It's not going to be with that extra oomph of I'm out to get you. It's never going to have that. It's not going to be included.
Also, was it when he was in the well that it didn't have scorpions and snakes? Is that?
It did have scorpions and snakes.
I thought,
Yes, and he was thrown into the pit.
Okay.
There were scorpions and snakes, but they didn't harm him because it wasn't his time. So that's the idea that he's talking about over here, that even when these things do happen, they're going to happen in a different way than if it was with vengeance. It's not the way it's going to work. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Ki ha'ava atzma, because the love itself, timzoig es hadin barachmim, it will kind of mix, it will balance, it will blend with the justice will be blended together with mercy, rachamim. So that's one aspect that comes from this. Hasheni, and the second aspect is shalei pa'amim, that there are times kesha'ashat tzricha lakach, when it's necessary. Yavar Adam Baruch Hu al Shur Tzadin Lagamri. Hashem will entirely forego what is deserved and what justice calls for. V'yinag barachim, and instead Hashem will act with mercy. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "V'chanoisi es asher achain, v'richamti es asher arachim." That Hashem says that I will show favor when I show favor, and I will show mercy when I choose to show mercy. So here, there's a very important element that beyond what would be fitting for justice, Hashem can still act beyond that line. So even if justice says this is the maximum, Hashem can go beyond that. Hashem is not limited to justice. And that is when the time calls for it, when it's necessary. So in other places he explains that it's when it means when it's necessary is when there's something that is needed for the world to continue on the path that it needs to go on. That's when it's necessary. But obviously we'll never know when or what that is. But this needs to be explained because it's still hard to understand how it can work that Hashem, who is the ultimate of justice, can do things that are beyond justice. So it does need some degree of explaining. Now, I haven't finished the whole topic, but let's just understand this at face value for now, and then hopefully as we get a little further, we'll explain it a little bit better. But for right now, what he's saying is that there are two systems. There's the mercy system in which Hashem will curb the justice or frame it in a way that will be reasonable, that will be more palatable, that will be doable for us, that we can accept it lovingly and use it as our catalyst to grow and to move forward and to not continue our slide. But there are also times in which Hashem just disregards the justice, which is a difficult concept to understand, but that seems to be what Ramchal is saying over here. So, he brings on the bottom here from Das Tevunos, again another one of Ramchal's works, and he writes, he explains that Hashem will do this when he sees that the people do not have the strength to withstand the admonishment. In that case, Hashem arises from the throne of judgment and sits on the throne of mercy. And then Ramchal writes, and this is the part that we need to understand, and this is in another work of Ramchal called Klach Pesche Chachma, where he writes that even under these circumstances, justice is fulfilled. Why? This is so because it is built into the laws of justice that certain mitzvahs have the power to actually neutralize a possible consequence of one's sin, such as the shofar, and we will discuss further in part 4 more on this topic. So there is still a concept of justice even when Hashem is, quote, overlooking and foregoing justice. Even then, built into the justice system is that there are certain mitzvahs that have the ability to overpower and to override and neutralize the things that we deserve to get as a negative side, and Hashem uses those in times of need. All right, so we'll learn about that more.
Would that be?
Perhaps, I don't know. We'll have to see when we get there. We'll have to see. Yeah, don't drink the bug.
No, I'm trying to blow it away.
There you go. Okay. All right, so I think we will stop here. But yeah, we'll get into this more a little bit later on. All right, I hope everybody is able to make it to the Kollel class at Fred and Paula's now. There's breakfast, brunch, whatever, bagels and stuff. So enjoy. Rabbi Singer is giving that class.
Are we like right here?
Thank you very much.
Right here, or are we still back? You're back here.
Yeah, but I folded.
Yeah, hold on. Next page.
Thanks for the donuts.
Bless you.
Thanks for the donuts.
Skip the page.
A little appetizer before.
Oh, did I miss it?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did this.
Oh.
Yeah, let's see. 1 second, let me just stop the recording.
All right,
Hold on.
I'll join in a connection. Go to the